Well, her passing, as you say, has left a big loss for all of us, because she really was an era, an epoch. When you think that her adult life took her back into the time of the Second World War, where she played a voluntary role with the British Army, and then she became our Queen in 1952, which is a full 4 years before Moroccan independence. So the whole period, the whole post-independence period for Morocco has taken place at a time during her reign, and that's the extraordinary thing. It's the expanse of time and the things that have changed since then. Imagine this: a couple of days before Her Majesty passed away, she received her 15th Prime Minister in Liz Truss, who was born in 1975. That's a full 100 years after the birthday of the first Prime Minister that she received in 1952, Winston Churchill. It just gives you an idea about the expanse of her reign. As far as Morocco is concerned, she was always a friend of Morocco. State visits don't take place very often, and so she visited here once in 1980 and had an enormous impact. I can't tell you how many people I and my colleagues have met over the last days coming to pay their condolences to the Queen, who remember seeing her and even meeting her in 1980. So she left this lasting impact. For example, in the garden of my residence, we now have a 42-year-old beautiful jacaranda tree that she planted as a tiny little sapling in 1980. But there are other more personal memories that people have. For example, most people believe it's the only time Her Majesty has ever been photographed eating with her hands, as she did with His Majesty the late King Hassan II. And then she received King Hassan in London in 1987 on a magnificent state visit. And so this connection between the two has been between peoples and between countries, but also between royal families, and that's something very, very special. Well, as Prince of Wales, King Charles, I'm very glad to say, has already visited Morocco 3 times officially. And he and our Queen Consort are very familiar with Morocco, and there is already a very warm relationship with His Majesty King Mohammed VI and other members of the royal family. This is really positive for us. There is an upward trajectory in the relationship between our two countries. And I'm very glad to say this carries the warm personal support of both of our kings. So His Majesty King Charles, throughout the more than 50 years that he has been the Prince of Wales, has been an enormous force for good in our country, particularly in driving interfaith understanding, not just dialogue, but genuine integration and understanding between faiths. He is, of course, now the head of the Church of England, but he is determined to support the role of all religions and the way that they operate together. And so, in particular, his knowledge and respect of Islam is very deep. And I was delighted to be able to deliver a message to the conference of ISESCO here in Rabat last year on the civilization and values of the seerah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And this was a sign of just how deep is his feeling, and he would say he's not an Islamic scholar, but other people consider him to be just that. Indeed, I believe he was the first ever Western leader to be honoured with an honorary doctorate from the University of Al-Azhar in Cairo. Now, His Majesty, many years ago, going back, I believe, to the early 1990s, had a vision for establishing a Centre for Islamic Studies at Oxford University, which is now in full operation. This has received really strong support from Morocco and from the Moroccan royal family. And I'm glad to say there is the most splendid Moroccan garden in this new educational institution in Oxford. A small piece of Morocco in this really valuable and important institute for Islamic studies. And we're seeing a great interaction there. My personal pleasure is that this is so much the vision and the inspiration of King Charles. I'm very glad to say that there is already an enormous amount going on between our two countries at different levels, and this is on the increase. But you're absolutely right. There is an enormous potential for us to expand much more, and this is part of my job here. So after COVID, we have seen at a personal level visitor numbers coming back. We now have hundreds of thousands of British visitors every year. The numbers are going back, the flights are going up, and the tourist industry around Marrakesh in particular is very, very happy for that. We see student numbers going up. We already have now well over 1,000 students studying at British universities for the first time. But we're also seeing a great deal of interest now that the UK is an independent trading nation among Moroccan companies to do business with the UK. There is investment going in both directions. Trade is on the increase, and we are actively finding ways of promoting this more. We're particularly seeing activity in sectors such as agriculture and automotive, but also in energy, and in particular in new technologies and new energy, new renewable energy technologies. We have some major projects planned. There is great research going on, particularly in the field of green hydrogen. So we're seeing collaboration in shaping the future as well, and there's a great buzz around the mining sector too. So there are plenty of other areas in which this is happening, but outside of the commercial field, our defence links are growing. We have a really important joint military exercise due to take place involving Army and Air Force coming in next month, and there is also a joint naval exercise going on, and we are really, really important partners to each other in the security field as well.